This is all about the money and education.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kaluarachchi. I'm a co-founder of a company called StartEd based in New York City. I'm also producer of a festival called New York EdTech Week. Our mission is simply to attract and develop EdTech entrepreneurs, and we've spent the last few years turning New York into a hub for education innovation. If you visit nyedtechweek.com today and scroll to the bottom with your email, we'll actually send you some clippings and learnings from our last festival, including a performance by the gentleman who plays Aladdin on Broadway singing about a song that got cut from the original Aladdin movie. I swear it has something to do with education. I would be remiss if I didn't mention one little story going to today. This is the first time this panel is actually getting together. That's my fault because I turned up at the airport on Saturday night with my Sri Lankan passport and was informed that I couldn't actually just turn up in Israel as I wished. So I called Yaki at 3 a.m. Tel Aviv time, and he picked up. And 3 hours later, he put in one call because he has great relationships in New York, and because he's tireless and always awake. And I turned up in Tel Aviv Tuesday morning. So a quick hand to Yaki for his dedication and his strong relationships with the city. I'm going to quickly introduce this panel, and we're talking about the missions of these global organizations. These gentlemen represent some of the most successful companies and business models. Powerful missions and business models. That's a very important tie I'd like to make in today's conversation. In the world, we have, starting on the far right, we have Andrew Gardner, who you just heard from, VP of Professional Learning at BrainPOP. We have Yariv Binnun, who is the founder and CEO of eTeacher. He's based here right here in Israel. Aartor Shen, Chief Data Officer of iTutor based in China. And Shahar Wilner, based here in Israel, who's a founding managing partner of EdVantage. Gentlemen, if you don't mind, just go down the line and tell us what your missions are in just 10 seconds. And then I'll ask you another question if we'll go down the line again.
Sure, it's fairly simple. As I explained earlier, we create content and interactives to help students learn in all subject areas in K-12 education.
eTeacher, we run virtual schools. We teach in synchronous methods, different subjects, students all over the world.
To leverage our state-of-the-art technology and change the way people learn.
So EdVantage is actually the only fund in Israel that invests in EdTech and learning technologies, and we are willing or wishing for profitable startups that will grow and conquer the world.
Thank you, gentlemen, for keeping that succinct. And now please take a little bit of time and tell me about your business model. And perhaps explain a little bit about how that business model may have evolved over the last few years in relation to changes in the market. Feel free to start it.
Okay, I will begin as a representative of the local industry. eTeacher was founded 18 years ago, 2000. It was before the notion of EdTech. It was just a business. We started as a tutoring business. We thought about online tutoring. Back then, to raise money in Israel for education was something that was impossible. I think that it's still quite tough. So we started as an online tutoring business, but it was very hard to make money. So we shifted the business model from one-to-one tutoring to group. And today we have about 30,000 students coming from 200 different countries paying tuition. The company is producing around 25 million a year a profitable business. We run school in language training, STEM education for kids, humanities. We have 350 teachers working for us from 25 different countries. And really the model is basically just school, student coming, purchasing courses, paying tuition, very old conservative model. But we can do it from here, from Israel, and grow fast and expand and become quite a big business.
iTutorGroup is a company of 20 years experience. Back in the year 1997, we noticed that the internet is booming up and everything is being changed by internet technology. However, the traditional way to deliver the education service still share or enjoy less benefits from internet. So we believe we can do something to improve that. So we build up actually an ecosystem or a platform for the professionals, the teachers who have the special knowledge around the world to share and deliver their knowledge to the learners. So currently we have more than 5,000 employees plus 20,000 home-based teachers around the world, located in more than 80 countries and 100 cities, and they are providing live tutoring services, majorly on English learning and also for math, for programming, for Chinese learning and writing. The whole idea is that we want to build a worldwide platform that everyone can share their technology, share their knowledge, and share their professional experiences on the platform.
So EdVantage is actually a startup. We are operating for the last 3 years, and along this time we moved from a very broad approach of looking for startups from K to Gray, and now we are more focused on lifelong learners, higher ed and corporate training. And the reason we've done this is because we realized that for Israeli startups it would be very, very difficult to succeed in early stage and moving from Israel to education system, K-12 education system around the world, while choosing more global problems that are mutual for higher ed, corporate training, lifelong learners. It's much, much easier. So this is one of the changes we've done. Another change is moving in preference from both B2C startups and B2B startups for more B2B business model. And again, it's not a hard go/no-go filter in our screening process, but we do have a preference flavor of B2B because it's we think that it's much easier to build a substantial business model when aiming businesses and not customers.
All right, so BrainPOP actually began as these visual movies that explained health issues that were originally distributed on CD-ROM in the mid-90s before anything was online, and then went online in the late 90s and was discovered by teachers and really valued by teachers. It was very much a Web 1.0 world where you went to get information on the internet. You didn't produce or create stuff there. Over time, BrainPOP became more and more popular with teachers, and BrainPOP as a company actually has different products. So there's the BrainPOP product that's 3rd to 12th grade, there's the BrainPOP Junior product, which is K to 3, and then there's the BrainPOP L product, which is BrainPOP for English language learners, and then it's regionally brought around as well. So there's an Israeli product and products in different countries. I think what the big shift we're going through now is going from being understood as a content-forward company where, hey, this is where a teacher and a student can go find content, to becoming a learning-forward company. And I think that is a shift that's going on in schools as well. Many schools equate curriculum to learning. This is what the children go through, and it equates in them learning. And so if we position ourselves as content, then we're the stuff that fits into the curriculum that exists. We're sometimes we call holistically supplemental. We're trying to maybe switch into being more understood as a learning platform now too, where still students can go not just to encounter information and get content, but to play with it and produce and go through a lot of the different cognitive processes that transfer information into knowledge. And so that's a debate we're having internally, where we feel we're going as a learning product, but not necessarily where the schools think learning happens. They still perceive it as content.
So I'm seeing a variety of business models represented on stage here, and there is a fundamental difference between selling directly into a school versus consumer and teacher. Those of you that employ more of a consumer-focused model, talk to us a little bit about the challenges in scaling such a business.
Okay, I will begin. I think that B2C businesses, I can talk about education, but we can talk here about education, becoming tougher and tougher. I think that for those of us that started in the early 2000, the beginning of 2000, these were kind of very easy years where it was not crowded. You could open a campaign on Google, later on Facebook, and it was heaven. It was easy. You were able to get good return on investment immediately. So those early days were fantastic. Since then, it is becoming tougher and tougher and tougher. Customer acquisition process, cost is becoming higher and higher, and you need to be more professional, more creative. So this is a huge challenge. And you cannot just, buy these services. It will not work. This should be really part of the DNA of your organization. So if you want to do B2C business and education, you need two crucial things. You need a great product in terms of education, in terms of the product that will be effective and engaging, but this wouldn't be enough. Then you need to be expert and super creative in how you acquire your customers. Just placing ad on Google and Facebook will do nothing. You're going to lose money. So it's like creating two companies. One for education and then another marketing company, and you need to master both to succeed.
Let me talk about the experience in China market. We know China has a very huge population, so it's quite easy to get any internet-based business hit the million or even 10 million users milestone. However, most of the users are always thinking that any services on the internet should be free. Yeah, so it's the big challenge to change their concept about this. For us, we already accumulate more than 20 million of registered users. Among them, there are 500,000 are paying members. This is I think it's quite an achievement because we use live teachers to give the services. It's not something like the content-based learning or the software-based learning. The replication or the propaganda cost is quite low. We use live teachers, so people have to pay. People have to pay for the services to get the real qualified ones. And I think as time goes by, there are two trends for the Chinese users. One is that they are no longer, or at least less and less trust the direct response ads. If you put any advertisement on the internet from the official angle, they don't want to trust it. Then the other is that they have to get a lot of references from the existing users before they decide to make the buying decisions. So for us, we noticed the trend that the customer acquisition cost getting higher and higher. So we had already migrated the channel or the way we get the customers from a pure advertisement way into a referral way. Now for our business, almost more than half the users are from the existing users' preferences rather than the the cold call or the advertisement.
Another comment. First of all, when I travel and I see companies out of Israel, I feel very envy. We don't have, Israel is it's a small place, and when I present eTeacher, I see that I present our marketing and sales, and when I see other company presenting, Chinese companies, Indians, they talk about the product, they have a market. Most of these companies serve a local market. We don't have this, we don't have it in Israel, we don't have a market here. So education, yes, small population, so EdTech companies in Israel need to export. We are exporters, and we need to export in many different languages. So at eTeacher we sell in Brazilian, Portuguese, South American, Spanish, France, French, English. So this is a huge challenge that we have here in the local industry, that my friends, they don't have this headache, and I'm very envy for that. And another thing is that since cost of acquisition is becoming more and more expensive, you try to compensate that with higher lifetime value. So this is what we're trying to do year by year, to think in a very creative way how to generate more revenues from every acquisition in order to finance the cost of acquisition that is steadily growing.
Yeah, I would like to echo what we just heard and deliver a message for early stage entrepreneurs. I think that this is being able to think for day one about your market, about the global market, how to hack it, how to be able to done continuous exploration of what would be the best business model, what would be the best pricing level, how to divide the features between free features and pay features and so on. This is something that a young startup have to do from day one and do continuously in order to be able to move from a very small market like Israel and be able to got customer and for a high value from global markets.
Yeah, to echo a lot as well, BrainPOP has been a subscription service for many years, and only recently, and has continued adding to the value of the subscription. So we moved from the movies to the playful experiences to the creativity tools, always bundling that in with the same cost. And we've got very strong market permeation in the US, and less so in some other countries, but we also have presence. What we've been working on recently in the US is, because we're in 40% of the schools, making sure that there's very clear understanding of the value of it. So we've added to the product a lot over the years, and that speaks to the humanware development, making sure that a school knows what they're getting when they pay for it. In addition, we're also starting to sell add-ons. We're selling a coding add-on this year, which will be additional revenue from existing customers. But we've spent a long time really establishing ourselves in this market, and so the key is to reduce churn by drawing attention to what people have and making sure they use it with fidelity.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. I think we already started alluding to the metrics around measuring the success of a company, essentially lifetime value over customer acquisition costs. So we're seeing the denominator increase over the last few years, and so this need for customer lifetime value to increase accordingly. Could you tell us a little bit about maybe some strategies you've employed or enhancing ones you've already mentioned that are focused on increasing that value?
I'll echo on the lifetime value concept. Since the acquisition cost of the single user getting higher and higher, so there's the need to try to add the lifetime value for any single user. For us, we try to maximize the satisfaction and the learning result of each users, so they will renew their contract with us after maybe 18 months or 2 years of learning, they will still sign another renewed contract for us to extend the time. The other is to expand to other subjects. For us, we are not only providing the English training. For the kids, as long as they take our services on English, most of them will also accept the training on math and extend it to furthermore. For example, programming is a very hot topic in China. Most of the parents want the kids to learn how to program the computers. Since the AI age is coming, everyone wants to try to train themselves some skills or proficiency to drive AI in the future. So we can use the vertical way to renew the existing contract and the horizontal way to expand to different subjects to increase the lifetime value of any single user.
So basically we're trying to sell as much as we can to every customers, and in education what you usually do and what we do at eTeacher is that we try to sell you the next level. So we would never develop a product of one level course. It would be also, we would try to get 5 levels. So the entry level is the first one, then we would like to see a nice funnel of more people getting to the second, third, and of course, I mean, the product needs to be engaged and good to enable that. Then we will try to upsell and cross-sell. Another thing that we're trying to do, this is not lifetime value, but what we're trying a lot of time to do in order to reduce cost of acquisition is to try to penetrate emerging markets. This is, I think, a good strategy for Israeli companies. Selling in the US today is extremely expensive for us, but in Europe as well, but we see South America, a lot of opportunities there, Brazil and the rest. We also see great opportunities here in Israel in the Arab market. We take advantage of the opportunity of the Arab population in Israel, in the Palestinian Authority, cooperate, selling together to the Gulf countries, huge opportunities there as well. So we're trying to East Europe, so this is another strategy that we use in order to when we tackle this great issue.
So this question is more for you. You see startups all around, from around the world applying to your programs. You're seeing the Israeli ecosystem as well. To echo on that last point around entering emerging markets as a strategy to lower customer acquisition costs, tell me a little bit about some companies that you may have seen that are operating in those markets. What are the advantages or disadvantages that you see? Do you see any trends?
I think that initially most Israeli startups aiming the American market and the European market. It's the most immediate market that you can reach. We see more and more startups that aiming emerging markets as well, especially China, of course, because it's a large market, and India as well. And India has the advantage of English as a language, much more close to the Israeli time zone. So it's a huge market as well. So it's huge potential. Yet I think that because the way it's very different to do business in emerging markets and in the US and Europe, I think that most Israeli startups didn't crack the formula how to do it right. So they are, especially in early stage, the cost of acquisition is still high. It's not easy to have lifetime value out of customer for Israeli startup in emerging market. And that brings, again, I think that what we already heard before, you have to know your matrix, you have to understand the market very well in order to succeed. It's not just moving from the US into an emerging market and believe that you will be able to crack it. You have to be very, very professional on the business as much as you are in the product and the technology.
In China, there are so many different level or tier of cities. So actually, we can think about a big city like Shanghai, Beijing as developed cities, and the second tier or the third tier across the whole country. Some of them are actually emerging market. So we are really experiencing the migration from the developed regions to the emerging ones.
Just to give some practical tips. So when we buy a lead in Facebook for coding for kids in the USA, we would pay $30 per lead. And if leads that we buy in Saudi Arabia, we would pay $2 per lead, and conversion would be the same. The same lead in Mexico would cost $7. And so huge difference, and so the world is big, and this is a good tip.
I think one of the most interesting points of that conversation is this idea that emerging markets aren't necessarily defined by the border of a given country. I think emerging markets exist within countries as well. So I would argue that there are probably emerging markets even in the US if you go hunting for them. Let's take the conversation to, since we have about 10 more minutes, and I think that we break for lunch and networking, to more of identifying trends, global trends in data privacy, any trends that you see in M&A and funding. If there are things that the CEO or executive should be aware of that would directly impact one's business models, are you seeing any things on the horizon from your vantage point that others should be worried about or take advantage of?
In the US, I think one of the things that a lot of schools struggle with are interoperability issues, with having a lot of different systems that don't integrate well together, and they want the students to go and either self-guide or have the teachers assign things. Yet there are some systems that will not log in without an individual login, or there's not kind of agreed upon back-end infrastructure by which different systems can speak to one another. And there are organizations working on this. Some are private. There's one called Clever, which works on single sign-on in the US. And then there's nonprofits like LMS Global, which is working on micro-credentialing and things like learning tool interoperability. And I think to not consider that from the outset to make is something would be a huge mistake. How are you going to make your onboarding experience frictionless? But in the process of making your onboarding process frictionless, you are sacrificing privacy, and there's very strict laws that change country to country, and in the US, state to state. So there's this careful balance of making your product as easy to use and get into without making a large blunder that could put you out of business immediately because you're breaking laws.
And do you think interoperability issues affect the cost of acquisition, or does it ease lifetime value? Where does it hit the bottom line?
Well, I mean, what also is happening in the US is we're seeing a lot of consolidation. For a while, schools were buying 20 different products, and they used them for a few years because there was monies to do it from federal grants, and now that money is running out, and they're saying, you know what, we're going to pick 5 products instead now. And if those products don't play well together and make a seamless, useful experience, they're not even going to be considered for a renewal. So I think it has to do almost with retention. I mean, like, maybe people will buy the product because they think it looks interesting, and they'll maybe put some effort into the setup. But if you want to continue to have renewals and less churn, you're going to have to make it a seamless experience.
I would emphasize 3 trends that we see in the last 2 years. First is that the KPI needed in order to be able to do a further round are getting tougher and much more hard to achieve, and that actually changed the way investors see the amount of investment. We see now post-seed and a pre-A and moving from seed to A is much longer. Second is, I think we see the tech giant and other participants that entering into the market that will change the whole ecosystem and changing the multiplier that we'll see on M&A further on. And last but not least, privacy. We have the new European regulation and a lot of scandals in the newspaper regarding Facebook and other that will entrepreneurs will have to put more focus on privacy, and that will make, I think, product in a way much more better, but also cost a bit more, and that will also influence pricing.
With the trend, the migration from the offline to online way of learning is getting faster and faster. However, even the traditional offline institute or school are also embracing the online education way. So I think there's no need to distinguish between them. However, people are no longer satisfied with the merely video conferencing or video playback type of so-called online education. They want a true result. They want to truly customize the services to give them a personalized learning experiences. So I think AI and big data will play a very important role on that way.
I would say, I see that there's 1 minute. One trend that I see, which is good for us, for eTeacher, that we see some disappointment from self-learning, from the MOOCs, with the high dropout rates, and there is shift to live synchronous learning, which become more legitimate model. So this is an interesting trend. For many years I thought that we chose the wrong learning methods, but now we see that synchronous learning generate a high lifetime value, effective learning, high renewal rates and engagement. So this is an interesting trend that we see.
Fantastic. Thank you for your kindness, gentlemen, and those insights. I believe I'm going to get us back on track in terms of our time.
We're back on track to times. Thank you very much. Thank you to the panel. And you can go down.